Hi, I'm T.H. Culhane for Solar Cities.
I'm Dave Luter for Solar Cities.
My name's Bob Hamburg with Solar Cities and Omega Alpha Recycling Systems.
AKA ORS. This is Biogas Bob Hamburg. He's a legend. He's the Dragon Husbandry Biogas Bob, who's been working for decades on biogas systems of various sizes and started his career out in Asia. And this is a Chinese system we brought in. This is the Puxin family and community-sized biodigester mold system, and as far as we know, this will be the first such system to be built in the United States of America. And Bob, how does this differ from what you were working on back in the 80s?
The systems we helped construct at the research station there was also steel forms, a little bit heavier duty, but they were about the third generation of systems that the Chinese had been working with, and they've kept up with it and evolved further, and this is where things stand at the moment. The big thing is this is a lot more easily accessible. It stands out a lot more, but we'll see. I haven't participated in one of these. Right. I'm interested.
And normally, to do a training for a Puxin system, you have to go out to Shenzhen, to Puxin. They're very generous with that. They give free trainings if you can get yourself out there. And there's a wonderful, very inexpensive place to stay. I did that last summer. And then other colleagues in Solar Cities, Yair Teller, Dominic Wanjahia Kahumbu, Oshika Frati, and others have been out training there. You go there and you basically do what's known as a dry build, which is what we're doing here, where you don't pour concrete. You learn how to assemble the molds, and then you can then purchase a set of molds, go to your home country, and then you know how to assemble them, and then you build your team and you actually build one. So we did a dry mold here. We want to walk you through it, how easy it actually is. These steel plates are not, as Bob said, they're not that heavy. You can pretty easily carry them. One guy, and I've done this many times because I've done these in the Philippines and in Iraq and in Brazil and here in New York prior. One man can carry all the molds and load them onto a trailer. We use an 8x10 trailer to transport them all from the Jersey port and then unload them. So they're that light. And what you basically have is you have sets of inner molds and sets of outer molds. The inner molds, if you come around this way, let me jump in and show you what we have here.
It died.
It died. Okay, we'll continue on with that. The inner molds are this lower ring down here. And there are 8 of them, 8 pieces. And these 8 pieces, then you have these quick connects that bolt them together. These here. And you can take them and slide them in the pre-cut holes, and then with a hammer them on, and that basically holds the thing together. It also comes with bolts, and you can see the bolts over there, and we're using them here. The bolts are for every set should have at least one bolt so that when you're having the concrete forces, they don't burst open if these things suddenly slip off, as they can do. But otherwise, you're using these very quickly to get the thing assembled. So this is the first piece right down here, and you'll see there's a piece here called a wedge. That wedge piece is there so that this plate, if you had trouble getting it in, you could leave it out, jig it around a little bit, and then you could hammer the wedge in. It's tapered. When you hammer that in, you can get that circle that you want. So we have a 4-meter cube system if you just use this bottom ring. If you didn't use this top ring here, if you just used this and then you put your neck molds on, you would have a 4 cubic meter system. This is a 6 cubic meter plate that you put on top, and if you just used that, and there's one right here, if you just took this one and made a ring of those and then put the top on, you'd have a 6 cubic meter biogas system. So they redesigned at Puxin for Solar Cities a system so that you can build a 4 cubic meter, a 6 cubic meter, or if you stack the 6 cubic meter on top, like this, as we've done here, and then put the neck on, you have this size here. That's a 10 cubic meter system. So it's one of the only systems in the world where you can get 3 different size systems depending on your topography, how your need is, how deep you can go. You can get a 4, a 6, or put the 2 together and get a 10. There's also a wedge piece here in the 6 cubic meter plate. Again, you put that in if you have trouble getting this to conform. Another good reason for the wedge plate is when you're standing inside after you've poured the concrete, then you can take the wedge piece out, and then it's easy to crowbar out the rest of the pieces. So that's another reason why they have wedge pieces in each of them. So I'm standing in this circular form with one piece open so I can get in and out without a ladder. These pieces here are the outer molds. And the outer molds are done so that you can pour cement, and they go out like this. And that way you can leave a 10-centimeter gap, and you can pour cement in between, and then you remove the outer molds, remove the inner molds, and you have a tank. You don't need the outer molds. In the Philippines, we dug a circular hole and then put the inner molds in and let the wall of earth be the outer mold, and just filled that with concrete. But as you were pointing out, Bob, you need to make a very good circle. You could be pouring a lot of concrete to fill in all those wavy edges there. So this way at least you know a predetermined amount of cement that you need to use. And that amount is about 35 bags of a 40-kilogram bag of cement. It's 1,400 kilograms of cement is what you need estimated for the whole build. So that's the idea. This sort of rings around here. Build these out. And you do this all the way around, and you have it, and it is high enough so that you can put the cement quite level to here, and then when you put your neck on, you still have a place to hold the cement back. And I'll talk about what the neck is in a second once we can do the shoulders. So if we can put that down for a second. I've got to put the shoulder. Now, there are 8 different pieces to the lower ring, the 4 cubic meter ring. There are 8 pieces of the 6 cubic meter ring. I want to say before I put this on that you don't put a piece on top of a piece. That is to say, you don't take a 4 cubic meter section and stick a 6 cubic meter section. Let me show you over here. This 6 meter cubic section is standing over a join between 2 different 4 cubic meter sections. Likewise here, I have a join, and here I have joins, and so the solid part sits over the join. And that's very important because that way the curvature of this piece holds curvature where the joint is so it doesn't bend in and out and then spoil your curvature. The other piece is this one here. We call this the conforming ring. If you're using the old sets of Puxins, you don't have this. They designed this for us before we went to Brazil because we wanted to do a 4 cubic meter system, and there was no way to put the 6 on the 4 to hold it together. Or if you want to do a 6, no way to keep the 6 perfectly curved. So they made this conforming ring on, and then you take that and bolt it onto your shoulder plate, and you can keep it there. It comes separately. And then you put this piece over again the gap. So if you come around back here, you'll see there's a gap there. You put the conforming ring over the gap, and then it helps it conform. This curvature here will force this to curve properly, and that's very, very important, or you do not get these all in, because once you start laying all these in, if you can give me one more, and maybe Dave, you can jump inside with me here. Bob will hold it up there.
There, I got it.
You got it. So you put that section down there. Now that covers one of the 8 sections, but they've broken it into 16 of these, 2 per section of the 8 sections of the circular part. That way, they begin to come together. But you can see there's going to be gaps, and you're going to have to lift it up and down to get it to fit in. And you build this ring of shoulders in, and you should wear a hard hat when you're doing this. And then eventually you'll be standing here, and that's what, Bob, you were saying, like the neck is really wide.
Yeah.
It's so that 2 or 3 people can stand inside, they can do the work, and you can easily get a ladder in and out. And then when you actually run the machine, if you ever had to empty it, you could safely get in. It would let enough air in that you wouldn't get asphyxiated by the CO2, which has happened, and people have been drowned falling inside the slurry and remaining. So they keep a wide neck here, and it enables the gas holder to be easily removed. There's a lot of advantages, more water pressure. So they have this wide neck that'll go around here. But this is the shoulder, and that's how that goes on. And we bolt these down. These we're going to use bolts on, not quick things, because when we're inside working here, we don't want these ever to fall in and fall on top of us. So there is, if I pull this out, if you look here, there are holes here that match the holes here, and that'll be bolted. Similarly, we did bolt these conforming rings onto the shoulder plate, and Bob really tightened these down well, which is good because we're not going to take these off again. This is going to be considered a piece. For shipping, it'll come separately. And so that's how you build that up. One other thing, if you could go get it, Bob, lay this down for a second, and if you don't mind holding that for a second. The ring there's a bottom ring. I can jump out actually and grab it, and then Bob can grab the other one. You grab this one, Bob, and we grab this. So it used to be in the old models that this you had to assemble. Now they've shipped us a fully welded ring. And this is the ring, once I get inside here, this is the ring that holds this whole top together. So that, I'm going to have to hold that real tight now for a second. So those holes conform there. And now you can imagine if we had all of the pieces of the shoulder, they would all get tied in and bolt there, and that is then the opening. Then the ring that you have, Bob, and we won't have the strength, I don't think, to hold in here, sits on top of this. And I don't think we can do that. No. So just imagine then, because you're going to see it tomorrow when we do the build, that that ring goes on top of this, and then the neck goes on top of that. But you do it in 2 days. What you do is you pour the cement. Tomorrow we'll pour the cement for this whole thing, and then we'll wait a day. That will place on top of here. When we finish the cement, it creates a kind of lip. Then we'll take the neck and build the neck up over this and pour the cement. So let's get to the neck for a second, and I'll show you that. Put it down in the center. Really long. And as you can see, these are the 16 shoulder plates that go over there. That's why I have those laid out. And as I mentioned, from the outside, these are the outer molds that go too tall, and then you pour the cement inside there. Then the next day, that'll be your first day. Your second day is this. It's the same idea, but this is for the neck of the digester, and it has inner and outer molds. It has 6 pieces per ring of inner molds, a bottom and a top, and I'll go inside and show you. Okay, so now you have to imagine that that has been assembled with the shoulders and that ring and that other ring, and we've poured cement over it, and we let it dry for a day. Then we assemble this, and I'm standing now on top of that. Think of it as a layer cake. I think that's how you put it, right? Yep. So you think of it like a layer cake. So we've got this cake body, and now we have where the bride and groom stand. And that's where I'm standing in now, where the bride and groom stand, that little ring on the top. Once again, if you come over this side and look, you'll see that this one has a wedge right there so that you can remove it and remove those molds when you're done. The cement is cured, as does this top ring here. That also has a wedge that can be moved out. And you can use these for the wedge, but they're easier to get in and out. But you do want to bolt in strategic places so that what's going to happen is the cement is going to be pushing in as you pour it. Well, a ring, when you push in, forms a tighter ring. So you don't have to worry too much about too many bolts on the inside. Yes, you want to bolt every other one with this here so it doesn't fall over. That's critical. But in terms of these coming together, the cement will push it. The outer molds that you have here, and you might want to lift that up for me a second, Dave. These outer rings, they'll be staggered like this so that it'll hold it in conformity. So you see where I'm putting it over the middle, or sort of the middle of the gap there. But cement would be pushing out like this, and this whole thing has, in people's builds, pushed the mold out, and then cement just spilled everywhere, and you lost your investment. So you really want to make sure these outer molds are well bolted so that they do not ever come apart. So you don't use too many of those.
Until you want them to.
Until you want them to. Exactly. So you use some of the quick connects, but you strategically place enough bolts so that you don't have any possibility of them busting out. Not so much a problem when the force is going in. A couple things to note about these. Every third one of the 6 bottom ring plates has a hole in it, which only see if we remove, pull this back, pull this outer mold back. So you see this here. Every third one has a hole. And there's one here, then there's a plate without it, then there's another plate which has a hole, then there's a plate without it, then there's a plate without a hole, plate with it, and then a plate without it. So these three, and they form a triangle. And that is going to be where the gas holder anchors itself. The gas holder is going to be down here, and it's going to be filling with gas, and it's going to want to spring up like a rocket, because there's going to be water level rising up over the gas. As the gas pushes the water out of the dome, it'll rise up the sides, and it's going to try to make it pop up. So it's anchored here like this, and it can't go up. It's anchored here, and it's a triangle to anchor it. So that is the unique part of this part of the design. And then up here, there's a hole, and you'll know where that's to be situated. To the very top, that hole is for the gas tube, which comes out of the dome and goes through there when you pour the concrete, so that there's a hole there. This system comes with, if you don't mind handing me one of those, and one of those. The system comes with 3 of these pegs to put in the hole. That's what they suggest you do. The problem is, these will get stuck in there. We've had it happen, and it's been such a pain to get it out. We've had to use a crowbar, and ended up damaging the cement, and at times even damaging the molds, trying to get this to come out, and you bend the steel. Bad idea. We will never use these again. Instead, we use them so that we can see the size. We use a 1-inch pipe. This is just a PVC electrical pipe. It's 1 inch, so it matches. And it just turns out that the inner diameter is perfect for the peg. Who knew? So from now on, what we do is we take this and we put it in and we sacrifice it. It's going to stay in there, the concrete's going to pour over it, and that's great because when we put in the gas holder, the peg will go right in like that, and that's what's going to keep the gas holder down. So no longer are we going to use these. Now, as for that gas holder, let's take a look at that. Oh, by the way, this ring, this is the last piece that goes on the top of the cement. It goes on, you have to bolt it together. Comes in about 6 or 8 pieces. 6 pieces. Comes in 6 pieces. You bolt it together. You won't have to unbolt that anymore. It goes on so that you can put the slab on later on. If you want to bury this underground completely, you make a concrete slab. There's also, they sell plastic covers as well, and that's over here. They have molds. Let me show you that. They have molds of different sizes for slab. They give you half molds because it's cheaper that way to ship. So you fill this with concrete and this with concrete. When the concrete cures, you take this off, you put it over here, and you fill it with concrete. You take this off and you put it here, and you fill it with concrete. And then you have four sections that you can then put on top as a cover. You want to put rebar in, and you want to really well oil these, and then you can make those sections. Also, you have a big circle you can make with these. It's the same thing. It's a half mold. You fill this once with concrete, fill this and this, and then you take this mold off, put it on the other side. This is dried. You fill this, take this out, put it here, fill it with concrete, and then once again you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that you can then take out and put as a plug, and then that covers this. And you can see that pretty well when you put this like this, and you put this like this, and etc. Okay, so that's what's going on top of there. So now let's just talk about the last piece of this whole puzzle.
Speaking of oil, though,
yeah.
I think it hasn't been mentioned that this stuff is oiled.
Oh, yeah.
Any place concrete is gone has to be oiled profusely.
Yep. We use used motor oil, thanks to Dave. We have a whole bunch. We've also used vegetable oil. And it's a messy process, but you assemble the molds and you paint them up good. And then you pour your concrete, and when you're done, you take out these molds. You got to wash them off with soap and water and clean them, because you don't want to have greasy molds all the time. And then you dry them and you clean them and you store them, and then the next person takes them and then oils them up and uses them again. And we should get several hundred uses out, particularly if we're using this technique of not using these but using the PVC pipe. That's the only place where we've seen some potential for real damage. Every build needs its own biogas gas holder dome, and these cost about, what did you say, $350? Is it? About $350, and they're big, so it's hard to order them. What you do is you first start, because they're made of lightweight fiberglass, and it's not that heavy, right? One person can lift it, as you can see, but to give it more strength, or tensegrity, as Buckminster Fuller would say, tensile integrity, they have these aluminum bars that go in and form a triangle, and that keeps it nice and stable, so they can keep the lightweight. There's 3 penetrations here, and if we turn this over, you will see what goes on there. So we have these metal rings. Oops, that came out. Put that nut back in. So you have these metal rings, not rings, what do you call this? Half rings, a semicircular cord, something. You've got these sections, let's say. And the sections, I guess we can put that on later. The sections go through the penetration in the middle that goes to the aluminum brace, and then there's 2 more penetrations to hold that plate down, and then you've got these pieces here and a piece in the middle that goes like that, and then that is where the peg goes, and that's what I was showing you inside. That's going to go into the hole that we were filling with the PVC, and that locks it in place. And there are 3 of them, one here, and one here. And you don't put these tightly on in the beginning, because you'll want to be able to slide this back and forth until you can fit this in the concrete in the hole, and then you put a bolt through it here to hold it in place, and that is what's going to hold this thing down. This is going to be anchored in, so even though there's going to be pressure of gas trying to lift this up, it's anchored by a triangle, and that holds the thing underwater. The water is going to rise as this thing is filled with water at the beginning, and you fill up your tank to about halfway up the neck. That water is going to be filling this, of course. But as this fills with gas, once you put the gas outlet on, which has an O-ring, comes with a rubber O-ring, don't forget to put the O-ring on, and then it screws in here quite elegantly. If I can. There we go. So once you've got this on, and you've got this sealed, the water has nowhere to go as gas starts to fill from your methanogens bubbling, so it's going to go around the sides and cover this, and the water level is going to begin to rise up to here, almost to the top of this. That pressure is going to be pushing hard on this thing to spring up. That has happened to people. So you want to make sure when you anchor this in that you really tighten all these down and put your bolt in here so that you don't have that fail like we had over there where the thing just sort of pops, because then this thing will pop up. It's under a lot of pressure to rise. And if you do that, then it'll hold just fine under there. And then it works like a floating drum, but without anything moving. It's the water that moves instead. It's water displacement. The water rises, and then you open your gas valve, and the gas goes out, and the water pushes it out. You close the gas valve, it fills up with gas again, the water rises, you open it, and you don't have to have it open and close outside. You can do that in the kitchen. You can have your valve there. This can be open all the time. This thing then goes on top of that, and so let's just show for our final image what that will look like. And we'll pick this up. For now, we'll just put it here. It's sitting on top of the mold because we haven't poured the concrete. When you remove the mold, it fits precisely between the 2 molds, the inner and the outer, on this lip of concrete that this ring will form. That is what this is made. This little lip here is made to sit on the concrete lip, and that puts it in the right place. It lets water seep out, but it doesn't easily make it move, it stays stable, so that you don't have a problem with gas ever coming out. So the water can just seep out the side. And this will be down inside, it'll be down to about here. And that's about it for our very quick walkthrough of the Puxin. That's a sort of dry build. And as we build tomorrow and over the next few days, we will show you the actual process of assembling. Come over here and we'll just show you where we're assembling as the fading light shows us. So in general, you can do your build on your day of concrete pour for the slab. Get everybody familiar. The way we basically do things is day number 1 is dig your pit. This one's 7 feet deep and it's 12 by 11. So we have an 11 by 11 slab that we poured 4 inches, and then we put rebar in, and then we put these half-inch rebar lengths 145 centimeters from the center pole, which is the precise place in between the inner and the outer mold that you saw. And then we're going to anchor our rebar mesh, this stuff here. We're going to anchor that to it and bend it around, and that'll be inside the molds. And then we pour the cement there. And while this is curing, you do your assembly and your checking and your training in a dry build. You label and number all of the plates, oil them up, and then as soon as this is dry, which is usually a day later, so tomorrow morning, since we poured this today, you bring the molds down for the body, set them up, pour the concrete, and then let it cure overnight. Then you come and you get the neck molds, and you put them on top, and you pour, and by the 3rd day, you're done. The 4th day, you can rest, and the 5th day, you would then remove the molds and start filling with the manure and water. So thanks a lot for watching. We hope that that gives you some insight into the process, and we'll be showing you every step as we do it.